to Victorious FM, brought to you by Victorious Entrepreneurs. Here's your host and single mum, entrepreneur and brain injury survivor, Michelle Williams.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Victorious FM, where every week I'll be introducing you to inspiring women who have gone after their dreams and refused to give up even in the face of extreme adversity. And we'll be diving into her victories and her defeats and discovering the lessons that she's learned along the way. And this is all with the aim of inspiring you to step into your own unique power to create a business and life that you love. This week I was joined by the amazing Sarah Grace, the CEO and founder of Sarah Grace Coaching. And it's Sarah's mission to help female entrepreneurs overcome mindset blocks by reevaluating their path, reconnecting with their inner compass and helping them to rise into the life and business of their dreams. And in this episode we talk all about what steps we can all take to figure out our true purpose and fulfill our unique potential. I found this episode with Sarah so interesting and inspiring, so I hope that you enjoy it too. Hello and welcome to another episode of Victorious FM, which is all about celebrating women's triumph over adversity and inspiring you that despite what obstacles you face in life, you have the ability to change the direction and create the life of your dreams. And today I'm really excited to welcome Sarah Grace of Sarah Grace Coaching onto the show. Welcome, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be on this show, and I'm excited to be able to share my story with your audience and maybe be able to help a couple people out there.
Yeah, I hope so, Sarah, because I was looking through your bio and one statement really caught my eye, because you say that you believe that everyone has a purpose and unique mission in life, and it's up to us to discover and fulfill our unique mandate. And I really love that idea, because I believe that myself as well. I do feel that we all have a unique purpose in life. And I think quite often we go through drifting through life until we get to the stage where we start asking ourselves that question of, you know, there must be something more, there's something bigger. Mm-hmm. And I think particularly as women, we go through different seasons of our life, don't we? Where we're raising our children. And I think that we then get to a point, particularly when the children are perhaps not so dependent on us, and we start to think, what else is there for me? What is my purpose? And I think quite often that's around wanting to make a difference in the world, really. But before we kind of get onto that subject, I know that you've had your own story of triumph over adversity. So I wonder if you wouldn't, first of all, just mind sharing your victorious story with us, and also telling us a little bit about how that then led you onto the entrepreneurial path that you're now on.
Absolutely. And I love what you just mentioned a minute ago as well, about how, we each have our own journey and how we each go through different seasons in our lives. And for me, going down this journey was completely unexpected. I always knew that I was meant for more. I always knew that I was here to help women, and that, the experiences I've been through were here for me to be able to help lift other people up and help get other people on the path that is best for them as well. Yeah. And so for me, when I was 27, actually, it was maybe around February of that year, I got sick. Didn't think much of it, because we all get sick. We all get sick every now and then. But then what started happening after that was I started getting these weird symptoms that continued on for a couple months. And the symptoms just got worse and worse and worse. And I thought, maybe it's just stuff remaining from my last lung infection. No big deal. Maybe things will get better. But then I started getting dizzy, and I started, my heart would race. I wouldn't be able to stand up and sing at church. And then I, it took some medicine to help my menstrual cycles not hurt as much, and that just made me nauseous. And the next thing you know, I started vomiting every 15 minutes and was really sick. And finally I was admitted to the ER about a week and a half later, after barely eating, barely keeping anything in me, extremely dehydrated, extremely tired. I was admitted to the ER and they had no clue what they were doing. They just, drew some blood, did a bunch of tests, gave me some liquids overnight and sent me home with probably about 10 to 15 drugs that you had to take like all sorts of intervals. It was ridiculous. Needless to say, that night after I got home, I ended up going back to the ER again and I was, again admitted overnight, but it was a different ER this time. And at this ER, they gave me a shot to help my nausea settle down, which was the best thing they could have done in the moment. And they stuck an IV in my wrist because that's the only place they could get an IV in. And then I was admitted to the hospital the next morning. And, I was driven by ambulance to the hospital the next morning and I stayed there for 5 days, 3 of which I was asleep the whole time. And then the third is when I finally came awake. And they were able to diagnose me with what they think there was going on. They gave me medicine that night. And then the next morning, I felt just like normal again. The medicine they got my diagnosis spot on, and the medicine gave me what I needed for my body to be quote unquote back to normal again. And then I just had to stay for a couple more days because I ended up getting an infection while I was there. But the 5th day I was able to go home. And after this experience, I ended up going back to work, and I ended up, I loved the job I was at. I loved the people I was working with. I was actually working with entrepreneurs day in and day out. Like, it was amazing. The company felt like a startup, even though they weren't anymore. They still ran like a startup, and I just fell in love with that field. I just fell in love with that industry. And, one thing leads to another, and there came a crossroads where I felt like it was time for me to move back to DC. So I came back here, and long story short, things didn't fall into place for me to get a job like I expected, but things fell into place for me to become a business owner instead. And it's been, one of the most amazing, but also one of the most hardest experiences of my life.
Yeah.
But it's been so rewarding.
Yeah.
Because it's been an outlet for me to be able to give back and to help others.
And is there anything to do? I mean, you didn't mention what the diagnosis was of your illness anyway, but was it something, because I know you were like seriously ill and it was a matter of life and death at one point, but was it anything to do with that sort of almost facing death that made you reevaluate your life and what you wanted to do and where you wanted to go?
Absolutely. So the second night I was admitted to the ER, I would say I was probably about 24 hours away from, passing on. If I had passed out that day, I probably would not have come awake again. Even the nurses in the hospital had told me that they were concerned about me. And they told me, like, it's so good to see your eyes, Sarah. Like, it was bad.
Yeah.
But I ended up being diagnosed with something called Addisons disease. JFK, John F. Kennedy actually had it as well. But this disease basically, it's an autoimmune disease that attacks your adrenal glands, and your adrenal glands basically regulate like your blood pressure, blood sugar, your hormones. It does a lot to keep your body in homeostasis. And without that, your body starts shutting down. And there's a lot of quote unquote random symptoms that lead up to it. But when you put it all together, it kind of makes sense why you have the symptoms that you do.
Yeah.
And so leading back to your point about how this led me into being a business owner, when I was in the hospital, I had an IV. Like, if you look in your wrist, like there's those little veins that run along your tendons. Mm-hmm. My IV actually was in one of those little veins for 3 days, pumping a liter of fluid through it an hour, and corrosive, painful medicine going through it to keep me alive. And it lasted me 3 days. And on the 3rd day is when my vein blew, and I was awake that day, so it was fine, because they could just stick it in another arm and I was good to go from there on. But the thing that this taught me was that we are on this earth for a purpose, and it is up to us to figure out our purpose and to achieve it. Here I was, 27-year-old, perfectly healthy, and then within a matter of weeks I was almost dead. And so that really made me realize just how much we never know when our lives are going to be over. We never know when we're going to lose somebody or lose something or an opportunity we once had. So we have to take advantage of what we have now before it's too late. Yeah.
I mean, I totally agree, because you were probably aware that I suffered a brain hemorrhage 3 years ago due to a ruptured brain aneurysm, which is something that, the majority of people don't survive, and those that do survive are normally left severely brain damaged and disabled. So, you know, it kind of, although it was obviously a terrifying experience to go through, I've come out of this just filled with gratitude and with a new lease of life, and just that feeling that I don't want to waste a single day. And I feel very strongly that my mission is about inspiring, educating and empowering women to be the best they can possibly be in their businesses and their lives. And personally, I want to do that by sharing my 17 years of business experience. But yeah, I'm just kind of really interested then in, obviously now you're on this journey, and obviously it's very in alignment with what I'm doing when you're talking about the fact that you believe that everybody has a purpose, and it's down to find it. How does that fit into what you do, and you know, how can you help people to achieve their goals and dreams in their life and actually help them find their purpose?
Absolutely, I love that question. For me, I'm a mindset coach. A lot of people may sit there and think, I don't need a mindset coach. Like, I'm good, I have my life together, I'm a happy person. But our mindset goes further than being happy. It's how we think, how we talk to ourselves, how we respond to circumstances. When we face a hardship, do we just buckle up and give up, or do we keep pushing forward? When we fail, do we say that means I'm never going to be successful, that, you know, that I'm this terrible person? Or does it mean, here's another opportunity to learn, let's move forward? And so for me as a mindset coach, I help women entrepreneurs to break through the blocks that are holding them back from success. And these blocks are often manifesting both in their personal and their professional lives. So if you can break through any of these mindset blocks, even just one, it'll take you to the next step of success in all facets of your life. And
I think that's really important, because I think it doesn't matter how positive we think we are. I think all of us have mindset blocks, don't we? Absolutely, all of us. I mean, I consider myself to be quite positive and optimistic, but I haven't always been that way. And I think that actually my positivity and determination has been born out of some of the adversity that I've gone through in life, because it's kind of given me no choice. You know, some of the things that have happened, for instance, my whole entrepreneurial journey started when I was fired from my job for being pregnant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was fired from my job for being pregnant, and then I lost my baby during the year-long sex discrimination tribunal. It was a horrible period of my life, which at the time I was stuck in it thinking, why me? Why is this happening? And actually feeling like I was heading for a nervous breakdown. But actually, when I look back, and you know, you can only look back, I think, sometimes with positivity when you get to a later stage in life. But when I look back now, I think, okay, it happened for a reason, because it actually forced me onto my entrepreneurial path that I've been on for the past 17 years. Because of what happened, I was so I was left with this deep-seated fear of ever wanting to return to the corporate world again, and that's kind of how I ended up on this crazy business journey, which I absolutely love. So, you know, it is sometimes, isn't it, looking at the things that, you know, that happen in your life, and also making the decision about how you respond to those.
Yes,
as well.
It's so true. And I love how you were able, you know, they say, there's that quote that says, you know, we take our mess and turn it into a message. And it sounds like that's what you were able to do. And I think, you know, like, and I love like your example, right? How you went through this really hardship, this horrible experience for you, that in some ways was your own personal hell, but you use that as a motivator, as a platform to make a difference in other people's lives. And I think one of the key things to making us successful is when we're able to do that. Yes, these periods suck. Yes, we need to mourn. Yes, we need to grieve. Yes, we need to, you know, own up to the fact this is hard. And it's okay to be sad, but it's one thing to be okay with being sad and never do anything about it. And it's another thing to say, okay, I'm going to be sad, but I'm going to make something out of this. I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to improve myself, and I'm going to grow and make my life and other people's lives better. That's a completely different thing And when you do that, I think that leads you to so much more happiness, so much more fulfilling, and so much more success in your life.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. And I think, I'm kind of like interested from your own perspective. We talked about sort of some of the adversities that you've been through in terms of, that illness and facing death. But what do you, at this stage in your life, what do you consider to be some of your biggest triumphs in life, or your biggest triumph in life, for that fact?
Absolutely. I think it's kind of hard to narrow it down to one. I've been through quite a few experiences with mental health struggles, major mental health struggles that tied in with suicide a little bit. Never contemplated it, but that was a struggle, I think. And I think, when I really piece it together, that experience, the struggle with suicide, fighting against the feelings of, hopelessness, of despair, and knowing that suicide is not an option for me. And having to fight against that, combined with the experience with my autoimmune disease, for me, overcoming death in multiple ways, is a huge triumph for me. And I think it would have been so easy for me to just buckle in and be like, you know what, I can never make it. Like, these experiences are hard. I'm never going to be happy again. Life sucks. Woe is me. And who's to blame me for doing that? But I think the triumph for me came in being able to recognize that, yes, these experiences are hard, but it's not going to stop me. Yes, I have this autoimmune disease and I have to take medication 3 times a day for the rest of my life so I can survive. If I go on my medicine for 3 days, I'm dead. Like, no question asked, right? So here I am dependent on medication, but instead of looking at it as woe is me, it's looking at it as, you know what? Yes, my life has limitations, but I can still live a happy life. I can still do the things I want to do. I just have to do them differently. And it's not going to stop me.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like gratitude is so important, isn't it? Because, it's easy, and Victorious Entrepreneurs is all about the idea of we all have the power to decide if we want to be the victim or victress of our own lives, basically. And obviously,
Yes.
This is a woman who is victorious, and who doesn't want to be victorious in their business and their lives. But I think when we're in the middle of adversity, sometimes it is difficult to see the light. But certainly from my point of view, I always look at gratitude. And I don't know, this is possibly something from my nan and granddad, who have always been a huge inspiration in my life. They sadly passed away about 21 years ago. But my granddad actually had a stroke, and he was like paralyzed down one side of his body. He couldn't walk or talk, and my nan kind of had to teach him how to walk and talk again. But I never ever saw him I never saw either of them complain. And I remember speaking to my nan about how difficult it must have been, and she said to me, every cloud has a silver lining. And it kind of always stuck with me. And I think for her, I was just a child at the time, so I didn't really understand, but I think as an adult looking back, what she meant is she was grateful because he was still alive. He couldn't walk or talk, and she had to teach him. Eventually he could say a few limited sentences, and he could walk with the aid of a stick. And she had to be his carer for the rest of her life. But to her, she had so much gratitude because he had survived that. And so from my point of view, I do practice gratitude, and I think it's so important. But I wonder if you have any kind of rituals or routines that keep you in that positive mindset, and also any sort of daily rituals or routines that you would recommend to anybody else that perhaps is facing adversity at the moment and wants to really change their life and their direction.
Absolutely. I think number one of the most important things, like you said, is gratitude. And I had some good friends that, and I hated it whenever we would do it, but whenever I'd have a bad day, she'd say, Sarah, tell me 3 things you're grateful for and why. And I'd be so mad because she wouldn't let me give a BS answer. I had to really speak from my heart, and that really reframed everything. You know, recognizing I do have things to be grateful for, and here's why.
Yeah.
Made me recognize that there are some good things in my life.
Yeah.
Number two, and I think that ties with my second point, surrounding yourself by a tribe of people that support and love you. It doesn't have to be a lot of people. It could be 1 or 2 people, and that's perfectly okay. The important part is that you have people around you who will lift you up and who will carry you when things get hard. You know, for me, when I was really sick, I think some of the most humbling moments is one time I had thrown up and I felt horrible and I couldn't move. And I texted one of my friends. I said, can you come help me? She said, yeah, what's up? I was like, can you come wash my hair? And here I was, this independent 27-year-old woman on the couch, couldn't do anything. And my friend had a bowl and she was washing my hair for me. But that was probably one of the sweetest moments of my whole life, because I had so many experiences like that, people supporting me. It was amazing.
And it is, you know, again, that's one of the, I think, the lessons that you can learn out of something when you're, you know, have been really ill. It's you realize the people that are important in your life, don't you? And who your friends are as well, which again, it's a blessing, because you know, and I completely understand about like keeping your circle small but filled with people that lift you up. And I think that's relative in business and in life, because you know, in business, I think also, I don't think you can do things alone. I think you need to support yourself with like-minded people that will lift you up, because, you know, certainly I'm not from an entrepreneurial family, although I am going to give a shout out to my dad, because he used to, back in the 70s, he used to design and make skateboards, and he used to bake them in the oven. And we used to go down to the south coast of England, and he would sell them from the back of his car. And this is when skateboarding first came into the UK. It wasn't big, and they were the best skateboards. Honestly, they were the best skateboards ever. And but there was no internet then. But I think had the internet been around back then, I think my dad, he would have been a brilliant entrepreneur. He's like a designer, but he used to come up with amazing inventions as well. But at that time there was no internet, so you know, it wasn't so easy to get a product out there, basically. But back to my story is that if you know, I'm not from an entrepreneurial family, and I think sometimes the people around me don't really get what I'm doing. They support me fully. My parents completely support me, but they don't really get it. So I think from a business point of view, I think it's really important to surround yourself with people that really get what you're trying to do and spur you on and motivate you, because back to the whole mindset thing is, it's hard running a business, isn't it? You know, you come across challenges every day, and you kind of have to get into that mindset that you will not allow yourself to fall at the first hurdle, or in fact any hurdle. You need to actually use those hurdles as learning experiences. You know, okay, that didn't work, you know, what's the alternative? What's the solution to this problem? Would you agree with that as well?
Absolutely. I have a friend who's another business. She's a coach, and she's helping want to be business owners and new business owners who feel a little lost. She gives them a little bit of a platform to come off of it. She sent me a meme one day, and I laughed so hard. But it has like a graph, and it has mountains going up and down on the graph, but it starts small and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and along the way it says, what am I doing? Yes, this is great. Why am I doing this? Oh, I could really do this. And it just, you keep oscillating back and forth like that. Sometimes you're gonna be on cloud 9 thinking life is great, and then other times you're gonna be at the bottom thinking, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? But as you keep going forward, you get into a rhythm, and you get into seeing why it is that you really want to do it. And being a business owner, I think, is one of the most rewarding things you can do. You start out with this platform, and you may think, oh, I'm confident, I have a good mindset, I have my stuff together. But as you jump into the business world, you realize that's only the beginning. Because how you portray yourself, how you see yourself, the things you tell yourself, the things you believe, the things around you. Every aspect of your life impacts the success of your business. And if something is out of line, it's going to be out of line in your business as well and impact it in some way.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I've been helping women get started in business for the past 17 years. And that's through, I've got two other businesses, the Craft Academy and the Keepsake Guild. So the Craft Academy basically helps women start creative home businesses. I've got a whole series of online courses where I teach them how to make baby keepsake products, and women can start their own home business, basically creating mementos for new parents. And that's been an enormously successful business, which I launched back in 2008, I think it was. But the biggest thing that I notice, once people have done their creative training on how to make the products, the number one thing that will stop people moving forward with their business is their mindset. It's that fear and that self-doubt that they can't do it, which breaks my heart, because I believe that everybody can do it, but it's the self-belief, isn't it? We have to believe it ourselves, because it's having that belief that really gives us the motivation to take the action that we need to take to reach our goal. And personally, I think we can. I'm not a life coach, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel that belief must be something that a muscle that we can develop. And the reason I say this is because since my brain hemorrhage, I have to go to brain rehab every Tuesday, and we are doing cognitive rehabilitation therapy to mend the neural pathways in my brain. But in that process, I'm learning about the brain, and I'm learning about the power of the brain and how we can kind of recode what's going on there. So do you believe, when I'm faced with people with fear and self-doubt, believing that they can't do it, what's your advice there?
I think number one is recognizing, where does that doubt come from? Does it come because, and my coaching sessions, I like to dig in deep with people, because of what I realize is that a lot of times when people think I can never do something, I will never succeed, they get that doubt. A lot of times it's because of either an experience they've been through themselves where they failed, and they go back to that and think, well, because I failed here, I'm going to fail again. Or they go back to it because they're not sure of their own worth. They're not sure of what they're really capable of. And I saw a quote yesterday that I think I said it perfectly. It said to it's from another business owner I know, and it said to the extent of, people often fail not because of who they are, but because of who they think they're not. Yeah,
I love that. That's absolutely true. And I kind of I wonder, why are we so afraid of failure? Why does the fear of failure stop us even trying?
Because failure hurts. And especially as business owners, I hear day in and day out from clients, I want to show others that I can do it. We have others around us who are watching us, who are saying, can you succeed? Can you make it happen? And these people are the same people who A, don't believe in our mission, B, are too scared to do it themselves, and C, are waiting to see us fail. And either, and they may not admit it, but either in the back of their mind, they're expecting us to fail, or maybe they're wondering, maybe she really will succeed and will inspire them. And so we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to succeed, to, reach these momentous goals, to do these great things, which is amazing and wonderful. But, we often forget to step back and recognize, what can I do? How can I get there? I personally believe that we each have the tools we need to be successful. Meaning, if we don't know the answers, we can go find the answers. We can figure out the answers. We can talk to people. We each have gifts and within us, and personalities and characteristics and an intuition that can guide us to the paths that we need to take in our lives, and knowing how we need to get where we need to go. And I think a lot of times people lose sight of that. They get so focused in, the fear of rejection and failure and what could go wrong, that they forget what could go right.
Yeah, I know. And I wasn't asking that question as if I haven't got any fear of failure, because I totally have fear of failure. Of course I do. I'm human. Yeah. Everybody has that same fear. But I think that, again, I'm looking at what's come out of me having faced something so awful with the brain hemorrhage, is that I nearly died. So now I am much more fearless, because I'm like, I nearly died, so what's the worst that can happen here?
Right.
It's kind of made me braver. It's kind of forced me to, not forced me, but it's given me that opportunity to come out of my comfort zone more. And I'm just thinking, wow, why didn't I do some of this stuff earlier? Because when you actually come out of your comfort zone and try some of the things that you have been too scared to, you actually realize it's not as scary as you thought it was in your mind. We sometimes create these pictures in our mind that something's so much more unachievable, or so more impossible, or so more scary. But actually, once we actually try it and we realize, I can do this, it kind of then builds momentum for us to come further and further out of our comfort zone and then take on the next challenge. What do you think?
Absolutely. In fact, that actually reminds me, I wrote a blog post lately about fear and about being scared to jump in, and I actually had an experience where I had a really good friend who's also a business owner, and to all my other friends, I'm a fearless person. And I actually had one girl tell me, fear never stops you, Sarah. And I'm like, okay, and I believe I'm fearless. But then this one friend comes to me and he said, Sarah, you need to stop being so scared and jump into things. And I was like, who are you to tell me that? Like, I was really turned off to that, really upset at him. He was a well-meaning friend, and something he told me, which I thought was fascinating, and I think it's true. The more we think about it, he said sometimes the things we want most but we're scared of, the reasons we get so stressed out and worried about it is because we want it so bad.
Yeah. And
I never thought about that before, but it's true, right? When we think about our dreams and how scary they are, sometimes we get so worked up emotionally because we want it so bad, but we're scared to do it. And so that just compounds and builds. Whereas if it was something that didn't scare us or something we didn't care about, who cares? It would just go on its way,
Yeah, that's so true. But it's really sad, isn't it? Because, if it's something we really want, but we're letting fear stop us, that's just such a sad state of affairs, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I want to pick up also, you mentioned a little while ago about self-worth. People, they're not going after their dreams, or they're not overcoming their fears because of self-worth, because I guess that comes back to belief in themselves. But from my point of view, having been in business for 17 years, I personally think that starting your own business and going through all of the challenges that you have to go through in running a business and learning all the things that you have to learn kind of really, really builds into your self-worth. Because I'm not somebody, I was really shy at school. I literally didn't speak to anybody. So me kind of being a podcast host is not who I would have been at school. But I remember kind of when I left school, I made the decision that I don't want to be that shy person anymore. So I kind of did things that took me out of my comfort zone, which then, and I purposefully got jobs. I got a job in sales and marketing, because I thought, okay, that means that I will need to be a more confident person. And so I kind of practiced these things, and it kind of fed into my confidence and my self-worth. But on the note of kind of what entrepreneurship does for people, I personally believe it's the best personal development program that you can go on, because it forces you to grow as a person. And would you agree with that as well?
1000%. I could not agree more. And I kind of alluded to earlier, but when I started out my business, I thought I was confident. I thought I had my stuff together. I thought I was hopeful and pretty positive. Nope. It really pushed me and really tested me, and it forced me to step out of my comfort zones into develop myself even more in ways that I didn't know even needed developing. But I think the beautiful thing with that trade-off though is, for me, it's, you know, it's helped me in all facets of my life. You know, my spirituality and my faith, you know, my belief in my God and my faith have actually strengthened a lot because of it. You know, my belief in myself has strengthened and grown. My personality has changed, and just everything has benefited. But I think one thing that entrepreneurs and business owners really need to be careful of is intertwining our self-worth with the success of the business. Yes, we are worthy, and yes, we are successful, and that's a beautiful thing and should be celebrated. But we need to remember who we are, you know, and that is different than our business. I've talked to business owners, really established business owners who they know their stuff and they know what they're doing. And I asked them, who are you without your business? And they can't tell me. And on the flip side, there's young business owners who are brand new, and they feel like if they fail and their business doesn't succeed, or if they make a mistake or they don't close a sale, then it's a sign of who they are as well. It's like it's the same principle, but represented differently. And so I think for us, we need to really remember as well, yes, we're successful. Yes, we have setbacks. Yes, X, Y, Z, but who are we regardless? Because who we are, yes, we can improve. Yes, we can change. Yes, we can grow, but we are more than just our businesses. We are friends. We are women. We are mothers, sisters, aunts, uncles. We have so much to give that's more than simply being a business owner.
And we normally start a business for a reason, and it's normally at an emotional level, isn't it? Certainly for me and for the many women that I've helped in business, it's not because we're trying to be millionaires or have six-figure businesses. It's normally about time and freedom, and creating that freedom in our lives, that we can have the lifestyle that we want and have the time to spend with the people that we love. And and Victorious Entrepreneurs, our tagline is for women who are victorious in business and in life. So I completely agree with what you've said, because the business is really to support your lifestyle, because we are here to live at the end of the day, aren't we? So
Absolutely.
I completely agree with that. I just wanted to ask you, I mentioned earlier that I practice gratitude each day, and I always, because I'm somebody, and I'm going to hold my hands up here, that before my brain hemorrhage, I literally used to work pretty much 24/7, and I didn't really make enough time for me. But I have this ritual where every day now I start my day by going out for a 3-mile walk with my dog, watching the sunrise, feeling very grateful. And it really lifts me up. It fills me with gratitude and positivity. And it's part, I call that one of my success habits, because it just gets me focused for the day. Also gives me that time away from my business where I get my creative thinking. So, because sometimes if we're stuck too much in our businesses, working all the time, we lose our ability to think creatively. And I just wondered if you have any particular rituals like that you do every day, or do you listen to any feel-good music, or have any affirmations or anything to start your day off in the right way?
Absolutely. And I must admit, I can't talk about how I start my day off without talking about how I end my day, because I think those coupled together make all the difference for me.
Okay.
And I think for me, every morning I take time to meditate for myself and to pray. And for me, it's based out of a faith-based religious thing, but it can look differently for people who are not of faith, or people who are spiritual, people who, don't believe in anything. That's fine too. There's a way you can meditate, but taking that time to meditate in the morning really recenters you and really allows you to reconnect with who you are, to receive the insights and inspirations you need for that day, and to really start your day off on the right foot. It gets you in a positive mode. It gets you in a good atmosphere where, you can jump into the day and knowing that you're going to do what is best for you, that you're going to make decisions that are well-grounded for you. And so for me, that's a huge, huge, huge thing that starts my day. And if I don't do it, my whole day is different. And then at the end of the day, I take some time to meditate, but I do that in the form of journaling.
Okay.
And I journal every night. And I never knew the power of journaling until recently. And I love it because it gives me an opportunity to really reconnect with myself, to really reconnect with my thoughts, to process the day, to process my feelings, my fears, my thoughts, everything. And every night when I journal, it's really brought me back to a sense of peace, to a sense of answers and calm, and knowing that, you know, the direction and the steps I need to take next in my life.
And without wanting to pry, what's the content of your, is that like a review of what you've achieved that day and what you've thought that day? You know, I'm just interested in what goes into that kind of journaling.
It kind of just depends how I'm feeling. You know, I'm sure you would agree that our personal lives 100% impact our business success.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's a combination of things. You know, last night, for instance, I was struggling with some of my own fears and my own doubts, and I was frustrated because friends and family and loved ones are telling me one thing, and then I feel another way. And so I journaled it out, and I wrote out my struggles, and I actually started crying a little bit as I was writing. And then by the time I was done, I felt peace again. And I felt it was like a form of therapy, because I was like, okay, like, here's what's going on. Here are my fears. This is what I feel I should do next.
Yeah.
You know, some days it's just talking about my day and like gratitude.
Yeah.
Some days it's just talking about, you know, life. It really depends on where I am in that moment. But for me, the important part isn't that I talk about, I had a grilled cheese for lunch, unless there's a reason behind talking about it. It's talking about things that really make a difference to me and that really matter to me and that speak from my heart and speak from my soul, and not just a diary of, you know, the things I did that day.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I've connected with quite a few people lately who have said the same about the power of journaling and actually writing things down. And sometimes some of their fears and doubts and frustrations, once they've got them down on paper and they've questioned them, it is actually the things that they're worrying about are not really reality sometimes. That's the message I've got. So yeah, I hear what a powerful thing that is. I mean, I don't actually journal, but I'm going to be starting to do it, because everybody what a powerful exercise that it is to do. We are coming to the end of the show now, but I just had a question that I wanted to ask, which is just if you had any advice for any of our listeners that are kind of wanting to make changes in their life. You know, maybe they've got a big goal, a big dream that they've been thinking about doing, or maybe they've come to that crossroads in their life where they're thinking, you know, what next? You know, what is there for me? What advice can you give them if they're feeling too afraid, too fearful, or just stuck and procrastinating? What advice can you give to people like that may be listening?
Absolutely. And this is some advice that I give in my own life, but also with my girlfriends and my people around me. I do the same thing with them as well. Is I'll have you sit down and think about the pros and cons of doing it and not doing it. You know, what are the pros of doing this choice, making this choice? Maybe a career change, maybe relationship changes, whatever it may be. What are the pros and what are the cons? In addition to that, let's say, you know, you do it, you have the pros, but what else? What will you gain from doing it? And with the cons, what will you lose if you don't do it? Or let's look on the flip side. In addition to that, you know, if I do that and it doesn't go well, then what? You know, then what's going to happen? And so if you really sit down and you weigh out the good and the bad, you know, what could go right, what could go wrong, you know, if I make this decision, if I don't, you know, how will that impact me? You really thoroughly write it out.
Yeah.
And then you tell yourself, which matters most to me? Does it matter most to me that I know what will happen if I make this decision? Does it matter most to me that I grow and that I try and that I push myself? Or will I be okay wondering what would have happened if I had taken that choice? You know, if I had done that. And there's no right or wrong answer necessarily. Only you can determine that. But for me, I can tell you that with all the hard choices I've had in my life, that has always been the thing I've gone back to, is exactly that question. And there's been one opportunity where I did not take the leap. And that opportunity, to this day, probably about 5 to 6 years later, all the time I still wonder, what if?
Yeah.
But I know that the decision I made in exchange for that risk I could have taken was a decision that was very good for me, and I'm still very happy with that decision as well. Yeah. And so I still wonder what if, but I'm still very happy with how my life turned out. And so weighing that out will give you that vision, that clarity. And then when you make that decision, rip that Band-Aid off and jump. And it's going to be scary. It's going to be hard. That's guaranteed. Yeah. But you're going to grow, and you're going to be grateful for that decision you made instead of wondering, what could I have done? What could have been differently?
And I love that, because there is that saying, isn't there, about we only regret the things that we don't do in life. And
exactly.
And I think we only get one life, we only get one chance. And if there is something that you want to do, you should do it. You should try it, because like you said, what is the cost of not doing it? If you're somebody that's stuck in a job that you hate, and you're stuck in that Groundhog Day of every day being the same, and you feel like your soul is dying in the inside because you're doing something you have no passion for, then is that the way that you want to live your life, or is there something, is there something better for you? And I am just so passionate about helping women to start, launch and grow businesses. And there's so much help nowadays, isn't there? With
totally.
The internet, there's so much, so many resources and so much help. So I love that piece of advice that you've given there. And I want to thank you so much for joining us on Victorious FM Sarah. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. But I just want to ask as well, if our listeners want to find out more about you and connect with you, how can they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. And I wanted to thank you as well for the opportunity. It's been such a joy to chat with you and to hear about your story and inspire me as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. So if they want to get in touch with me, they can contact me on my website, which will, you can lead you to my social media as well. My website is www.simplysarahgrace.com.
Okay. And are you on social media?
I am. And so Facebook and Instagram, it's both Sarah Grace Coaching. That is how you can access my coaching site.
That's brilliant. Well, I will make sure that we put those links in the show notes, and also on the website over at Victorious Entrepreneurs as well, where we will post up this podcast episode as well. But once again, thank you so much, Sarah, for all of your words of wisdom and inspiration, and also for sharing your victorious story with us, which I found really interesting and inspiring, and I hope that our listeners have too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're so welcome. And again, it's been a joy to chat with you.
Bye-bye for now. And to you, our amazing Victorious FM listeners, thank you so much for joining us. I have absolutely loved this episode with Sarah, and I hope that you have too. And please don't forget, if you want to find out more about Sarah, please either check out the show notes or head over to victoriousentrepreneurs.com, where all of our amazing podcast guests are featured on our website. But until next week, stay victorious.
You're listening to Victorious FM. Victorious Entrepreneurs, for women who are victorious in business and in life.